Hi, we are back today. It is the Monday before New Year's Eve. So I thought it might be kind of fun since everyone's staying in this year. If you learned how to make paper hats, you can do your own festive paper hat for New Year's Eve. You can decorate these with markers, glitter glue, sequins, beads, whatever you might want to put on here, words. You can just have fun. So the first hat I'm going to show you is your typical sailor's hat, and it can be worn like this. Let me put this up a little, like this. And it's kind of like a Robin Hood hat. You could add a flower back there, or you could, this is a sailor, or you could flip it and turn it into, say, a captain's hat. This will be the first hat I'll show you how to fold. Very simple. And yes, you will get hat hair from these paper hats. The second hat I'm going to show you how to fold today will be, just a second, I've got something weird on the screen, will be the Viking hat. And this is a fun hat. It has like little wings. You would have little feathers, and you could decorate this with Viking marks on it, feathers or suns or something to do with the Viking heritage. Or again, just glitter and buttons and sequins, and that's fun. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to do this sailor hat. Kind of looks like a nurse's cap, doesn't it? And because my hair is kind of poofy, even though the hats have kind of flattened it, I'm going to hook it on with bobby pins. And then here will be the hat. So this is the first hat we're going to make. This hat was done with a rectangle piece of paper that is 12 by 18 inches. Because that would be very hard to work with on the screen, I'm going to use a smaller piece of paper, just a regular copy machine size of paper, and that will give me this size of hat. This would work for a child, a small adult. I guess if you wanted to be goofy looking, you could have a small hat on a large person, or your dog, or a teddy bear, or some other stuffed animal. And that way you could bring the whole family into making hats. I sat this morning and I played with little pieces of paper, and like I have a little tiny Viking hat that would work for a Barbie. So you could just have a lot of fun with these. And here is a smaller Viking hat that I did this morning, just so that you had different sizes and you can see what different sizes look like and what you might want to try. So for the first hat, we're going to pretend that this is a 12 by 18 rectangle sheet of paper. And again, it's a copy machine sheet of paper. So easy, this size is easy to get. The 12 by 18, you might have to go to wrapping paper. If you have leftover wrapping paper from Christmas, that would make it very festive. Or if you happen to have just some general paper from a wedding or a graduation, you could use any paper you wanted. And if you didn't want the pattern on the outside, say it's a Christmas wrap, you could always use the inside of the paper, and that would be plain, and then you could decorate it. So I'm going to move my camera down, and I'm actually using pre-printed paper. It's copies that I no longer need. So I'm going to use those for my examples today. I'm going to fold them to the inside so you're never even going to know. So let me tip the camera down and we'll get started. Okay, so here we have white paper on a white tablecloth. Perhaps maybe this wasn't the best idea. So I will take, and here I have my copy machine sheet of paper. The first thing that I will do, I am going to fold this paper in half to make it just a folded sheet of paper. And if you're looking at this, you would do it, close it like that. Okay, so then the next thing you're going to do is fold this rectangle in half. And the more you line up your edges so that they come out nice and even, the squarer your corners, the sharper your corners, the nicer your project is going to be. And I'm really pressing down on those seams to make sure that they're nice and tight. Now I am going to flip this around so that you are watching how I'm doing it, but it's going to be upside down to me and hopefully will come out okay. So now you're going to have your piece of paper and you're going to have the open edge by your body and the closed edge away from you. And it makes a difference where that fold and where the open edge is, or you'll have a hat that when you go to open it, you're going to have two pieces. So the open edge goes next to your body and the fold goes away from your body. Then you're just going to pick up the first corner. And the reason we pre-folded that paper was so that we had a guideline to match up to. So I took the first corner, I folded it down. The fold runs right along that pre-folded line that we already had. And then I'm going to press it down nice and tight. So I've got a nice sharp point right here. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. I'll pick up the corner, I'll fold it toward myself. And again, I'm reversing this for your sake. I'm lining up the edges so they all come together right there on that fold, the guide fold we made. Okay, so now I have the two folds that have come down. I have extra paper at the bottom. This is the paper that I'm going to flip up that holds the hat together. So I'm going to flip this up about halfway. Just about halfway of that amount that I had left over. And then I'm going to flip the hat over and I will line up the front and the back pieces with that fold. So there we have, the back is also folded up even with the front. I'll flip it back over so you can see what I'm doing. Here's our original front of the hat. And then I'm going to take this fold and flip it up on top of itself. Nice and sharp fold. And then I'll flip this over. I'll flip this up on itself. And again, you probably won't use paper that has printing on it. Yours will be plain, but mine was pre-printed and that's okay. So now both sides of the hat line up with the other side. So here we go. We'll flip it over. And now we have all our folding done. We're going to pick the hat up and we're going to pull the hat apart. Now we had those pre-folds and the pre-folds help give the hat shape. So now you can wear it this way as I have on right now. You could wear it this way. You can also use this shape to float a boat in the water. They really float a little while before they sink, but it certainly is fun to watch the wind blow them across the water if you choose to use it for a boat. So now you have done, kind of looks like a Dutchman's hat, doesn't it? Now you've done this style of hat that you can wear flat. Excuse me. Or you could wear, like a sailor's hat. I did one time that I folded this tip down in so it was flat, and I made a hot dog vendor's hat. And that was just kind of fun. These will stay together very well if you do not hook them together, but you also could put a staple on both ends, and then there's no way that hat's going to unfold unless you're the one that makes it unfold. So there you go. That's a simple sailor's hat. Very simple. Anyone could do it. So let me take this one away. And now we're going to work on the Viking hat that has the little flaps. It has a little piece both in the back and in the front that holds that hat together. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on again with my bobby pins, or it won't stay on. And these you could decorate with feathers, glitter. You could make it look like a Viking hat. You could make it look like a crown. Might be nice if you were having a frozen party. This could be a crown that one of the girls wears. So now we're ready to get started on this Viking hat. Now for the Viking hat, I used a much larger sheet of paper. I used an 18 by 24 inch piece of paper because there's a lot of folding and a lot of folding in, so you lose a lot of the paper, the size in the folding. So this has to be a larger sheet of paper. Again, this time you might want to go to wrapping paper. Newspapers used to be the paper that I would go to, but they print newspapers on smaller sheets of paper now, and they don't necessarily give you the size, the larger size you need, but still it would give you a good size. This hat was made by 18 by 24. With old newspaper, when you used it, they would be so big that they actually kind of fit down on your head. But with the narrower papers now, it's a little bit more difficult to get that effect. But I think this is still pretty cool, you know, for a Viking hat. And remember, they had lots of hair and beards, so this would have been a good hat. So I'm going to move the camera down so you can see the beginning steps of a Viking hat. Now remember, I'm using a sheet of paper, copy paper, that is much smaller than I would need, but it would be very difficult to fold that large of a piece of paper with the camera. So I'm using the smaller sheet just to show you how to do it. When you did the Viking hat, you would want a piece of paper at least 18 by 24 inches. So let me move the camera down to the table. And here's my paper. The first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this rectangle into a square. So since I have writing on here, I think that's the edge that I'm going to cut away. So it's probably been a long time since you've turned a rectangle into a square. So remember, you simply take one corner of the paper, you fold it up, you make sure that the papers line up, they're nice and even. You've got a nice sharp point here, and then you just fold this down. And it's fine to fold it down because that's the first step of making your hat. So now we have this extra flap that we don't need. So I'll just quickly take my scissors, and I have craft scissors. These scissors are used for everything with crafting. They aren't my good sewing scissors because I cut, if you remember, I cut the wires and the ribbon for the bows with these scissors. These scissors have even been used outdoors for trimming dead branches or stems off of flowers. So have a good pair of scissors that you can use to do anything with. Okay, so now we took our rectangle, we folded our corner down, we lined up the edges so they were nice and even, and pressed it into a nice sharp corner. Then you're going to spin your paper around so that the tip of the paper is next to your stomach and the fold is away from you. You're going to start by folding this triangle in half. And we need a guideline, that's why we're doing this step. So we fold the triangle into a smaller triangle. Now when we open this up, we have our large triangle with a line down the center, and this again is a guideline. So I'm going to take one of my sharp corners. Remember, the fold is away from you. The point is next to your body. And I'm going to fold this corner down, put a nice sharp crease in it, and then I'll fold this corner down to match. And so now what you've actually created is a smaller square, but it's only going to stay that way a minute. Now remember, if you're making the hat, you're going to have a larger sheet of paper. This is done small so that you can see it on the screen. So now I'm going to take one of the points and I'm going to fold that point up. Like I said, I'm doing this. Hang on. Fold it up. Okay. So now I'm going to take the point. It looks so different upside down. I'm going to take that point and I'm going to fold it up. Now remember, I just picked up the top layer and I'm going to fold that up. And then I'm going to take the other side and I'm going to make sure they're nice and even right here. I want a nice sharp point over here. And if you're using a thicker paper, you might have a little more trouble getting these nice sharp points. Don't worry, it's a paper hat, and if they're a little off, it's not going to matter. So now I have my little flaps folded up. I have the back of the hat here, and I'm going to take the first flap, and I'm going to pull back the corner a little bit, but I'm leaving a little bit flat right here. So I'm not going to make it a sharp all the way over fold. This is going to create that little feather look in the hat. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the fold on the other side. I'm going to fold it back. I'm going to have these line up nice and true right here in the center. Fold that flap back. And now I have the little feather shape on both sides. Now you say, wow, that hat, how's it going to stay together? So I'm going to separate the two back papers and I'm going to fold the first one up and I'm going to fold it up, leaving some paper below the folds. So let me fold that up on that line I just drew. You can eyeball it. I just drew the lines so that you could see. So now I have folded this side up. I'm going to flip it over so I can fold the back up to match. And you're going to say, oh, but this isn't true here at the corners. Hang on a second, it will be. All right, so now I have the back folded up. Now I'm going to flip it back over. I'm going to take that little piece that I just left, fold it back up on itself. And this makes the nice true fold that will hold the hat in place. And then I'll flip it over and I'll do the brim of the hat on the back. So now I have my little flap back here. I have a decorative flap here. I have the little flap that holds it there. And now when I flip it over, here's my hat all done. I'll simply open up the hat. And there you have your Viking hat. The pre-folds, if you pinch them just a little bit, they help hold the shape of the hat out. And there you have your Viking hat. And now you could decorate this with spears or arrows or put real feathers in it. You could just have a blast making this a Viking hat. Or it could have glitter and sequins and beads on and be a very pretty party hat. So there's two different hats for New Year's Eve. The typical sailor's hat that you could wear flat, that you could wear pointed. and then the Viking hat that pretty much you would just wear it that shape. So the hat I have on was made from the 18 by 24-inch fabric or fabric. I'm used to sewing paper. That will give you this size of hat. This is going to fit any adult head or a child. Probably for someone younger, it's not going to, it would be too big, but it's just a fun hat. And I have a my head is weird shaped and my head is very flat in the back. So most people's heads kind of round out in the back. Mine just goes flat. And that's why I wear the poofy hair so that my flat head doesn't show. So here's two different hats. Have fun. Enjoy your New Year's at home. I did have a New Year's Eve party one time. I lived in Wyoming for a while, and the festivity for the party, New Year's Eve party, was everyone had to make their own party hat. The guys hated it, the girls loved it, but the guys had a lot of fun doing it. So maybe you want to make this the project for sitting home this New Year's Eve and just enjoying the company of the people you're with. I have the dog, so the dog would wear a hat, actually, if I put strings on it and tied it around her neck. So, I might have to work on that. So have a lovely New Year. I'll see you when we get back. Bye-bye now.